I was born pretty much in a war-torn zone of Africa. Now, the East African part of the African continent has been at war for the last 50 years. And that means that most of the people that are under 50 have actually been moving around for those, for the duration of that time. Now, the advantages of that is the fact that some of us managed to go out and actually see what else is happening around the world. I'll start with the talent. How many MBA students we have here? MBA and above? Right, and so this is a chart that was done by Jacana Partners. And Jacana Partners is an investment firm that focuses on SMEs in Africa. And they found out that 70% of Africans who are doing MBAs in Western universities actually returning to go back. And half of them went to start their own businesses. So what's going on is a different landscape than what it was 5 or 10 years ago, where everybody wants to actually work for large companies after getting their MBAs and getting very fat salaries and pretty much, being fine. So, so yeah, and then I wanted to kind of really focus and zone in on, if you want to know where the money is, you have to look at the exits. So who is exiting and who actually did the exits last year. So this is a graph actually that came out of the research that was done by EY. And EY collaborated with AVCA, which is Africa Venture Capital Association. And they found out that out of all the deals that happened in 2013, 23% were in financial sectors. Corporate venturing is where a large company takes a very small minority stake in a company and help them to grow using their own infrastructure, but they actually get to do what startups do very well, which is innovation. And for the startups, they get advantage of working in large companies who are very good at execution. So it's kind of, it could be a marriage made in heaven if it works. And as you can see, IBM recently decided to set up their first research firm out of their first research firm on the continent, and they did that in Kenya. So some firms are really listening. And I also decided to kind of put this chart up here because it gives you, once again, who are the most active corporate venture firms. So Google Ventures comes on top. Intel is the oldest CVC firm, and it has been active for the last 40 years. Qualcomm, InQtel, Novartis, and this is not just in Africa, this is globally. So it gives you a kind of an idea of, if these guys are not in Africa, I can tell you they're going to be there in 2 years' time. And you've already kind of started working with some of them. Now, I'll give you some of the examples of where the model has worked. Who has heard of MPESA? Oh, yes, very popular. Now, MPESA and Vodafone actually created what is now MPESA, but it wasn't something that actually they said, okay, now let's go and create MPESA in Kenya. It was actually an accident, and that accident has become very useful, especially to the Kenyans, because most of the economy, half of the economy now goes through MPESA, and Kenya now leads in mobile banking around the world. But it started in 2002. Aspen is a South African company, and in 2009, GSK, the wonderful GSK, took a 16% stake in Aspen. As you can see, once again, it's a very small stake. And they granted the rights to Aspen to basically distribute GSK products in sub-Saharan Africa. As part of that, GSK also handed over a German manufacturing plant, as well as the marketing rights to 8 international products that they already owned. So part of the intellectual property. In 2010, Aspen took control of GSK generic drugs in Australia. Now that they had a very healthy looking balance sheet, they went away and actually started now making their own acquisitions in other countries. And in 2010 of the same year, it bought a GSK plant in France. Now, these deals, as well as other deals, basically helped Aspen became the 9th largest generic drug maker in the world, and recently GSK managed to basically make an exit, and they netted around £500 million, almost £500 million. Some of the opportunities that are available in Africa. Mobile is very interesting because it's still very early stages, but at the same time, it allows people to have a computer in their own pockets, and these computers are not very expensive. For the time being, the SMS part of the technology is still very active, but in 3.5 years, as I'm going to show in the next few slides, is going to be very, very significant. So that affects many areas, such as health, such as, once again, financial services, education. You can look at various sectors. You can go on and on. Basically, pay the bills online, or you can send money. So basically, there's so many businesses and industries that are going to be disrupted using mobile technology, which wasn't possible 5-10 years ago. And this is the chart that I was kind of referring to. So in just 4 years' time, it's predicted that 1/3 of the African population will have smartphones. And that has large implications, because now you can start actually making real money in Africa using mobile phones, where SMS was wonderful and you kind of got people introduced to the whole mobile phone thing. Now you can really start making real money using games, using anything that goes on 3G. It can now be done on a large scale.